Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, low voter turnout. Also, a lawsuit has been filed against Tommy Tuberville and his residency issues. And the primaries, thank God, are finally over.
Bring out your dead. Here's one. Ninepence.
I'm not dead.
What? Nothing. Here's your ninepence.
I'm not dead.
Nearly killed us all. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by Susan Britt, research guru extraordinaire, Josh Moon, investigative reporter and columnist at APR, and a man who's determined to fight for truth, justice, and the American way. Welcome.
Thank you. You read it just the way I prepared it for you. I really appreciate that.
And your cape is in the mail.
Yes, your cape is in the mail. Hey, I tell you, the primaries damn near killed me. I don't know about y'all, but I'm glad they're over with.
Gee.
Yeah. I am happy to see the end of the commercials. Yes.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Sayonara.
I'm still a little bewildered by the raccoon, but we might get into that a little later. I don't think there were any surprises.
No.
I don't think there was a single surprise on the Republican side at all. I don't even think there's any surprise on the Democratic side. But Barry Moore is now the official nominee for the Republican candidacy of U.S. Senate. And I tell you, at the end there, they were going after him big time. And I felt it was just dirty low blow tricks.
It was.
Questioning whether he was a veteran or not. I thought that was beneath the campaign of Jared Hudson, but they decided to go there. But, Barry ran with the same team that took him to Congress.
He did.
Twice. And so congratulations, Barry Moore and the team for a big win.
Yeah. He won by 56%, and Hudson only had 44. That's really not a surprise. I mean, Hudson came out of nowhere. Nobody really knew who he was. He never really said who he was. He was more about his military record and fixing the problem that he never defined what the problem was. So that's not a real surprise at all. And plus, let's not forget, Moore had the Trump endorsement in Alabama. That means a lot.
That obviously, Josh, it meant a lot to have that endorsement because the two races where Trump did endorse his candidates won. But I think that, I got a call from someone the other day. It said, 12 years ago, would you thought that Barry Moore would be the U.S. Senate nominee for the Republican Party from Alabama? And I went, no.
You mean when he was sitting in the witness stand in Lee County?
We thought he was going to be in prison.
Yeah, I mean, really.
Thought he was going to be in prison 12 years ago. Listen, look, congratulations to Barry Moore. Condolences to all the rest of us. I was no Jared Hudson fan. Everybody knows this. So it's not like I'm upset that Barry Moore beat Jared Hudson. I really could not care. I was rooting for the crack in the earth. But, it's a shame that we're still going to have unproductive Senate seat. We have the senator who's currently there has been wholly unproductive. And it seems going in that Barry Moore is going to be kind of in the same boat. He's going to be in this far right boat there that just doesn't mesh with some of the more centrist Republicans that run the Senate. You know, the Senate is more of a centrist group. Okay, so you have the Democrats that everybody on the far left hates, or that run things for the Democrats, and then you have the Republicans in the center who all the Republicans on the far right hate. They run the show in the Senate. That's the reason why it's called the grown-up portion of Congress, you know. And so it's a shame. Look, Katie Britt fits well into that, you know, and Richard Shelby fit well into that. That's the reason why Alabama has been so successful in getting federal dollars, contracts, and different things out of the Senate because of the way they conduct themselves. And, you know, Barry Moore's not going to be that person. It would be nice to have a second senator who would fit into that.
I mean, and listen, this is not my wish either, but I hope, and he said this in interviews, that he will be more of a Jeff Sessions type. But one of the things that Jeff Sessions, he was a thorn in people's backsides. But one of the things...
He's going to be short and racist?
Well, yeah, that'll do it. But Barry is not short.
Right.
But he will be more of a Jeff Sessions than a Tommy Tuberville, which might.
I would
be
love
good.
to see it. I'd love to see that. Yeah, it would be nice.
I'd love to see them working together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to see them
don't-
working
I
together
don't
and not
know.
at odds like
I don't
Tuberville
know.
was
I
with
don't know.
the rest of
What I
them.
do know is that John Wahl registered the last day of the primary, and man, I mean, Angie Horn, who ran Wes Allen's campaign, is one of the best, if not the best, campaign manager in the state. And Josh, he beat Wahl. I mean, Wahl beat him like a rented mule, man. It was just unbelievable.
Yeah, I think this is one of those where I think this is a pure signal of how heavy the Trump endorsement was in low turnout races. You had a really flawed candidate in John Wahl. Wes Allen was not a great candidate by any stretch, but he was a vanilla candidate. You know, he didn't have any real problems. There was no real bad press for Wes Allen out there, unless you're a Democrat and you didn't like him. But, but otherwise, there was nothing really to knock Wes Allen on. But he got into the race where it was a low turnout. With 10% of the electorate voted. That MAGA base was going to carry the day, and that's what happened. You know, I think that's the same thing for Barry Moore, same thing for John Wahl. That endorsement was something that was going to carry. It was too much to overcome.
Yeah.
Well, and I think another distinction is that John Wahl was really out talking to people. I mean, he worked every day to go and meet people and say, hey, I'm here. I want to do something great for the state. And that's another race that got really nasty in the end. I mean, it got super nasty.
Well, I think, and again, Wes Allen, nice guy, I think Wahl, when you meet him one-on-one, he is really a nice, sincere individual who does listen. And I think that helped him. I also think that Wes Allen hurt his cause by attacking Wahl's Christianity.
Exactly.
I felt that, and all the Muslim comments and the Jewish comment, not all of them, but I mean, he did say he would not go to a mosque, he would not visit a synagogue.
Yep.
Those things...
I think that hurt him.
There's a lot of folks in Alabama who don't appreciate that, but we're gonna have to leave it right there. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
Your property is your home, your investment, and your legacy. Across the country, scammers are filing fraudulent deeds, often without the owner knowing until it's too late. REACT is a free alert system. If a document is filed using your name or tied to your property, you'll be notified within 24 hours.
Property fraud is a crime, and the faster we know it, the faster we can act.
Sign up today. Protect your property, protect your legacy.
Alabama has a hands-free driving law, and that means you can't hold your mobile phone while making a call. Oh, and no writing messages, recording, or watching videos either. Plus, you can only use a single button or swipe of a finger to answer a call. So what's a driver to do? Alabama's hands-free driving law is in effect. Follow it.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. Last Sunday, the Alabama Candidate Committee promised a hearing, a full and thorough hearing of Ken McPheeters' challenge to Tommy Tuberville's residency. The media late Friday night was invited. Media showed up. Media was not allowed in the room where they had the hearing. Our understanding is each side had 45 minutes to present their case. They deliberated less than 40 minutes or 45 minutes altogether. By 4 o'clock, Scott Staghagen, the head of the ALGOP, came out and said they had unanimously decided that Tuberville met all residency requirements, but they followed none of the rules that they told us they were going to follow.
No, they didn't. They didn't give them opportunity for deposition. They didn't give them, opportunity to subpoena stuff. They just really did. And initially, they weren't going to have any media. Then they were going to have 2 or 3 reporters. Then they were going to have all reporters. And then they didn't allow them in the room. But for the cost of $400, you can get the transcript of it, which was a deterrent in itself. So no, Suzanne Tuberville wasn't even there. We don't think you didn't even know who was there because it was so closed off that you didn't know if Tuberville was there. You didn't know if McPheeters was there, for that matter, because nobody saw anybody that was in that.
Well, we know that McPheeters and Tuberville were there, but Josh, someone said this was a dog and pony show, and I said there was no dog or pony there. I won't say what I said was there, but again, it was a show trial. But the day after the primary elections, on Wednesday, 2 veterans in Alabama filed a lawsuit in Montgomery County that is going to put this thing in front of a court of law. And Josh, I don't think anybody knows any more about this than you do.
Well, yeah, no, the thing Sunday was a mess. I don't really know what they wanted to accomplish with that. I don't know if somewhere along the line they've decided that it just wasn't going the way that they wanted to, and so they just decided to get whatever they could out of it. I don't really know. And I mean, I guess maybe they got some headlines that now allow them to say another challenge to Tommy Tuberville's residency has been filed in the court. I guess maybe it makes it seem trivial or whatever. But whatever they were hoping to get out of that thing Sunday it didn't happen. It was a mess. They took steps backwards, I think, during the week to try to prove that his residency questions had been answered. That didn't happen. The Quo Warranto challenge, and I know that I have butchered the hell out of that name. Okay, and maybe somebody with a law degree can pronounce it properly. But that's, what it is. It's a challenge that's been filed by a couple of military veterans in the state of Alabama. They're challenging Tuberville's eligibility to run based on the 7-year requirement. And that challenge is one apparently not many people knew about.
Right.
But the attorney who filed it, Barry Ragsdale, is what you would call an elections expert attorney. He knows a lot about this stuff. He was the guy who brought the lawsuit that ended up getting David Cole thrown in jail for his residency issues when he was a representative in the State House. And so Barry knows his stuff. And, I think a lot of people knew this lawsuit was coming. But it was still, I guess newsworthy to see it filed in Montgomery and to know that what's in it, what's going to be requested, some of the parameters, these sorts of things have got to go pretty fast. That's the court is supposed to handle them in an expedited manner, and that includes discovery and responses to questions and depositions. And they have immediately asked for depositions of both Tommy Tuberville and his wife Suzanne. They have asked him to answer a number of questions, including how many nights per week they have spent at that house in Auburn that he's claiming as his residence. And they have asked for a number of documents, including utility bills that will show power usage and water usage at the two different houses, all of which could be very damning, with or without they've asked for a jury trial in this, with or without a jury verdict. Those documents and things in the public realm are going to be very problematic, I think.
And they've also asked for their federal tax returns.
Yes.
That's interesting because, yes, he could put his, Cherry Street address on his Alabama tax returns, but whatever he put on his federal returns will be very prominent.
And let me be perfectly
And
clear.
making clear where the residency actually is.
I don't think we are not making a judgment of where Tommy Tuberville lives, even though it's always seemed strange to us that he said he moved to Florida and then he moved back to Alabama, and that they live in a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom house instead of their, mansion on the beach. Okay, what we really want to know is, are we following the law? I mean, every constitution, the Alabama Constitution, has a trap door, and that trap door doesn't spring until you step on it. But once you step on that trap door, and the trap door is section 117, which says you have to be a resident citizen next for 7 years before the election. Well, if we look at the documents, there are questions, and we've not gotten any answers that seem to satisfy anyone outside of the politics of this issue.
Yeah. No, you're right. And look, the Tuberville people can get mad about this all they want to, but here's the basic reality. Okay, you have a multi-million-dollar beach house that seems like a very nice place to live. You have a $300,000 home in Auburn that seems just like a run-of-the-mill, lower middle-class neighborhood at this point for somebody to live in. All right, and it doesn't seem reasonable to the normal person when you compare those two, that you're going to tell me that the sitting U.S. Senator lives in the $300,000 house in Auburn, okay? To most normal people, that's not a reasonable thing to say. And so, with that being the case, nobody's still making a judgment. We're just saying it doesn't seem reasonable. So you've got to explain to people. You've got to give them a reason why this is so. Why was he living in this house? Did he just go there to satisfy the requirements of his job? And if so, okay, well then just show me how many times he stayed there. Show me the bill, show me the stuff, and we're okay with that. But you've got to explain it to people, and you've got to give them a reason to believe it. And so far, they've given no reason to believe this unbelievable thing.
And we're running out of time, but if it was a Democrat, I would feel exactly the same way.
Absolutely. Any candidate.
I don't care what party you're in. I care about the law, and I think that is the issue here. What does the Alabama law say, and do you meet the requirements? I don't care if it's Howdy Doody or Mickey Mouse. You have to follow the law. But we're going to have to leave it right there. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
Your property is your home, your investment, and your legacy. Across the country, scammers are filing fraudulent deeds, often without the owner knowing until it's too late. REACT is a free alert system. If a document is filed using your name or tied to your property, you'll be notified within 24 hours.
Property fraud is a crime, and the faster we know it, the faster we can act.
Sign up today. Protect your property, protect your legacy.
Alabama has a hands-free driving law, and that means you can't hold your mobile phone while making a call. Oh, and no writing messages, recording, or watching videos either. Plus, you can only use a single button or swipe of a finger to answer a call. So what's a driver to do? Alabama's hands-free driving law is in effect. Follow it.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. Josh, you hit on it briefly a while ago. The original primary in May was dismal turnout, about 22%, just dismal, out of almost 4 million registered voters. But the runoff primary, which are always smaller, but it was so small, it was just a little shy of 11% of the people who showed up, which means that a super minority of the state's voters decided to show up, Susan.
Right, they did. 408,000 showed up, which means, and let me make it even more painful here. 9 out of 10 voters stayed home. 9 out of 10 voters, registered voters in the state of Alabama, stayed home for that runoff election.
And Josh, this will determine who's going to be the senator, who's going to be the lieutenant governor, who's going to be the attorney general. I mean, and I think two things here. I think people are exhausted, but I also, and I don't say this flippantly, I think they're so exhausted that they're not turning out for Republicans like they normally do.
Yeah, well, I think Republicans ignored what they wanted. The poll after poll after poll told us what voters wanted, what they cared about, and none of the Republican ads. I mean, you had a talking raccoon and the woke mind virus was in every ad, and none of it had anything to do with affordability and lowering prices and lowering gas prices and helping people out with everyday problems. Nobody talked about this. Nobody at all talked about it. I mean, we had all kinds of people talking about men and women's sports, which nobody anywhere could name a single instance of. Okay, nobody could. It is never going to affect a soul. All right. But all those high prices and all these other things will. And nobody talked about any of it. And so I think that turned a lot of people off. Not to mention, there were a lot of really, really stupid, offensively stupid ads. I mean, some of the Jay Mitchell stuff was just ridiculous. The talking raccoon was dumb. I mean, all of it was just so over the top, nonsensical, and really insulting, I think, to the intelligence of a lot of people. And I think they group it all together in this sort of and I think that's the response that most people had to a lot of the things that they saw. There was a race, you talk about the big races. There was a race for a state house seat in which the winner got 800 votes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's going to represent a section for about 40,000 people. They got 800 votes, and that was the winner of the race. And it's just we've failed to connect. We had this conversation on our podcast, Alabama Politics This Week. Look it up this week, and one of the things we talked about was how to engage people and make them understand how races affect them. And too often we focus at the top and we don't bear down to those things about fixing the potholes in your street or the person on the school board or just things that really matter to people at their level, what they care about. And I think we've got to get back to that. Yeah,
I do too. And again, I think the Alabama Reflector brought this up. In Greene County, 51% of the voters in Greene County always turn up.
They consistently
because they remember, they have not, the remembrance of Jim Crow and what was done to black voters down in Greene County has not been forgotten. So they participate. Imagine if 51% of the state turned out for every election, what we might
I question though that. Because we had this same conversation. We actually had it with Michaela DeRosier from the Southern Poverty Law Center, who's in charge of organizing people to vote and does a great job. But we talked about why that is the case in Greene County. And I think it's more of what we just talked about. I think it's more local issues. They get involved in local things because of the gambling issues that are there, some sheriff issues that have taken place in the past, and they stay engaged in the process more so throughout the years than I think think most counties do. Because I mean, if that were the case, it was black voters and taking the votes away. I mean, what about Montgomery? What about Dallas County? What about
That's
Lowndes
true.
County?
That's true.
You
That's
know?
true. Hey, listen, I was just repeating what they.
I wasn't banging on you about that. I was just saying, like, what, why is this? Is the difference? And I think it's that. I think we agreed on that on the show. It was those local issues. I think if you could keep people engaged throughout the year, it doesn't become this. Oh wait, I got to go vote for the dumb raccoon guy, or whatever. You know what I mean? And so I think those sorts of things really make a difference throughout the year.
Well, I think it's important that we actually look at Greene County and because I don't think it's just one or two issues. I think it's multiple issues that both of you brought up. And if we can maybe look at what's working there and as, campaign committees and candidates and whatever, look at what's making it work there and start applying that statewide, we might see a different electorate.
Well, maybe gambling is the answer. Maybe legalizing gambling is the answer to get everybody involved.
It would.
To me, the interesting bit in a lot of this is it tells me that you're not reaching voters. Mm-hmm. They don't care enough to show up for you. Mm-hmm. And, the numbers are way down for Republicans this year. It does not mean that the Democrats are going to win a bunch of races, but the numbers are down. And I think there's just a sense of apathy and that no one cares about their issues. And you know what? Most people, as you and Josh have brought up many times, are more concerned about the pile of bills on the kitchen table, the cost of food and gas. We've opened the Strait of Hormuz, and we're going to give the Iranians billions of dollars. And you know what? The Strait of Hormuz was opened beforehand, and we weren't giving them diddly squat. They hear that all the time. And then some parts of the Republic make excuses for that. But we just spent $1 trillion at least on a war of choice that did not feed a soul or get a better deal. We have a worse deal now than we had.
If only the pediatric cancer patients had a strait to close.
But remember in the primary also, the Democrat numbers doubled.
Yeah.
So people are tired of the crap.
That's what I mean.
They're tired of it.
That is part of the exhaustion.
Just tired of it.
And it's not just that. It's our politics in general has lost its sense of direction and decency. Mm-hmm. And we don't talk about issues. We talk about things to divide. But we're going to have to leave it right there. You've been watching the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them.